where Colin was wrong.
Yeah, I was way wrong on Nick Sirianni. Never loved his methodology and yelling at fans and confrontations on the bench. But you know what? 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He feels, what can I say? The team likes him. The city likes him. The coaches like him. He's a little bit emotional. Well, so was Bill Parcells. I made a mistake of thinking that everybody coaches the same, and they don't. There's creative guys like Andy Reid. There's more rigid guys like Bill Belichick. There's more emotional guys like Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni. And then there's more stoic guys throughout the league. So everybody coaches different, and I have learned my lesson.
All right, I want to show you a few clips that really, really highlight how great of a head coach Nick Sirianni is that aren't always so obvious. I'm kind of cutting this into the middle of the clips. I don't know how smooth of a transition is going to be, so you'll have to just bear with me. But right here is one of the perfect examples of this. This is not in the Super Bowl, but here, take a listen.
Hey, Nick's aggressive and he trusts us. I love it.
I declined that because of trust.
I know.
Good ass. What did you just say?
What I told you on the field. He declined it because he trusts us. Hey.
Something like that, as little as that, matters so much. Having your coach instill that confidence and that level of trust, I cannot tell you how empowering that is. And I cannot emphasize enough that not every coach is able to do that. You think that that's such a simple thing, and we're like, well, all coaches do that. All coaches do not do that. I've talked about this at length, and I've had plenty of coaches that made me feel like they don't trust me, or I am uncomfortable, or if I do make them, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all coaches do not do that. And it is not a gimme. It seems so small, and this is how I know that, because right there, they're not like, well, of course he trusts us. He's a coach. Like, they're talking about it on the field. And then he literally runs to Dean and is like, yeah, see, I told you. I told you. That's what he just said. Like, it's a real thing. It's a real impact. And then here, this is everything with Travis Kelce. Trying all his little antics, trying to get, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Jalen Carter. Here you go. Trying to draw Jalen Carter. Davis. And they never really engaged into it. I mean, it seems so subtle. It seems so subtle. But again, you can tell that they were just like, nope, we're not getting involved. I mean, again, just C.J. Gardner, just the fact that he put his hands behind his back, you just know that he was told, hey, Travis Kelce and company are going to try to do some of their little antics, and it's just like, nope. And we know that he's kind of trying to get Jalen Carter going. Again, Jalen Carter could have put his helmet up against his and, did the whole pressing up against each other, and Jalen Carter obviously still talked to him and kind of stood there, but it was not the same energy that we know Jalen to do. And it's preparation, man. It's coaching. Here's Mekhi Becton. You'll have to read along because there's music, and you can't play music. He's talking about how he was treated, like the Philadelphia Eagles drafted him. Because for those of you that don't know, I talked about this in a previous video, when you're not drafted and you go to a different team, and outside of you having a big massive contract and there's a big investment, you're not treated the same. The players that are drafted or sign a big deal, there's more of that investment. And so it just hits differently, and he knows it, right? That's what he's talking about. And he's saying, from day one, they treated me, like I was drafted here. Like I said, they welcomed me with open arms here, like you would have thought I got drafted here, the way they welcome me in. So it's just that's different. And that makes anybody go hard on the field when you have the support. I'd never been in a connection like this either since high school. I mean, it doesn't get, I got the chills just reading that. I wish I could play it for you, but the music. I mean, that's awesome. Again, that's the culture of Philly. That's Sirianni. That's Howie Roseman. That's Jeffrey Lurie. I mean, it's all connected together. And this right here. You cannot be great without the greatness of others. Philadelphia Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni after winning Super Bowl. Now listen, for some of you guys who are a little bit older, for some of you guys who have been around the block, you might be like, well, yeah, obviously. And, it's funny because to me at this point, like I'm a little bit older. I've been around the block. I've also already had a ton of great coaches and I seek out stuff like this. But again, for someone who's like 22, 23, 24, 25, and you're playing and you're within the NFL and you're really only exposed to sports, if you made it to the NFL, it's just like your life has just been football 24/7. Things like this resonate and land so deeply. And you have to be taught this at a certain point in your life, like, because again, I look at this and I'm like, well, yeah, of course it takes the greatness of others and stuff like that. But it's like, I have to remind myself, yeah, but like when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, like I didn't, I needed to be taught this. And again, not all coaches teach that. Not all coaches preach that. Not all coaches can instill that into an individual player, let alone a team and a culture and a voice and an attack. And like those things matter. I just can't emphasize that enough. And that's how you get this connection. That's how you get these guys wanting to play for each other. That's how you get the soundbite of Ballin being like, I want to do everything I can out here. And Becton being like, this team has empowered me so much and makes me feel so wanted and special that how can I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let them down. And it's just, I wish there was a better way, to really illustrate that. And I tried my best with some of the clips, but again, some of the greatness of what Sirianni and the type of coach that Sirianni is, it's just harder, right? It's easier to look at Andy Reid's play calling and scheming a guy wide open, and you could be like, that's the genius of Andy. That's the genius of Andy, right? And a great defensive coach, and when they just get after it, we could just look at what the Eagles did. You could be like, that's great defense. Look what Fangio did with Bond. Look how he worked with Cooper DeJean. Like, look at the game plan. Like, it's just easy, right? It becomes very simple. When unpacking what a coach like Nick Sirianni can do, this is where I feel like you have to actually really had to have played at a pretty competitive level where coaches can actually, where you actually also have a little bit of continuity with a coach. Because a lot of people who kind of just play recreational sports, they often only really have a coach for like 1 year, 1 season, which ends up only being like, again, if you're talking about like rec, like a couple months. But when you get to higher levels, like you're having the same coach again and again and again, and the coach knows you, like even if you're just playing like high school varsity or something, like you're still going to have continuity alone, let alone obviously college and beyond. And those things matter. And it's one of those things that even I have to remind myself, like, right, like Cooper DeJean, this might be one of the first times that he actually really understands that. Man, the dude just turned 22, like this is one of the first times that he actually has to understand that, AJ Brown. That's why AJ Brown's reading these books, because it's like he's still learning. He's still figuring out what is life. No one has all the answers. Even if you're 55, 65, 75, like you still don't have all the answers. And even if you do, even if that's a message that you deeply understood, you still need the reminder. And again, like this is just one simple example that I was able to come across. So I'm not going to act like this line right here is like everything, but it's just the presence that, again, not all coaches bring. In fact, a lot of coaches fail to bring, or the message easily gets lost. And it's very obvious that the message has never gotten lost with Nick Sirianni. Never. And that's how you win the Super Bowl. 40-22 / 40-6.